back to another episode of the DTD podcast. To my right, we have Dr. Tyrone Howard, and to my left, we have Dr. Jaleel Howard. So we all went to school. We understand that. But what do you guys remember about PE?
So PE, I remember as fun time of school because you got to go outside, you got to race, you got to play kickball, you got to play softball, you got to play tetherball. So I always like represented during PE. I used to feel bad for kids like y'all who didn't have much athletic skill because y'all couldn't really get down. But I always excelled in PE time.
Yeah, but I think you make me think about the stages of PE because elementary school, yes, it was trying to show who was the fastest, strongest, et cetera, et cetera. But once you get to middle school, you're a little cool, and it's not cool to try too hard in PE. So that's the delicate balance. And you don't want to stink going to classes after PE when you're in middle school. So I remember the axe being sprayed in the locker room, coming over like layers of lockers. So that
In junior high school?
Yeah, that's when axe first
I
came
didn't even
out.
think I had armpit hair in junior high
See,
school.
that's when Axe first came
out.
out. So it's like you go running, sweating, playing basketball, football, whatever. But before you go back to English, you got to spray a little something on yourself.
And you probably had PE in high school.
No, I played basketball.
Nah,
so we
you
had
probably
PE.
had PE
No.
then. I don't think he was on the team.
Hey, that's why you felt good because nobody else plays sports.
Nobody played, only him.
Wow. What was PE like for you?
PE for me was just chase the girls around. I was always the fastest at every school I've ever been to. I did not play basketball because it wasn't cool to play basketball where I came from. But the worst
It
thing
wasn't
about
cool.
PE,
You weren't good.
That's what it was, right?
No. It wasn't cool to play basketball at PE because you play basketball on the basketball team. If you playing basketball at PE, you got that big yellow and black ball.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody trying to play with that.
But the question is, should everybody have to participate in PE?
Yes.
No.
Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody.
Here's part of the issue, I think, and you all know this as well, particularly the dressing out part of PE.
that's
We
for real.
did not experience or let me not say this. I think we were, number one, male, but did not have certain body types where we felt uncomfortable changing into PE clothes, but other people did. That's an unnecessary part of schooling that we do.
No, but you can put on sweats and shirts in ways that can still protect.
You know how hot it gets in Santa Clarita?
Yeah, but everybody not going to school in Santa Cruz.
But some people are. Some people go to school in
It's true.
Arizona. Some people go to school in Texas. It's too hot.
Yeah, I don't think I really liked PE that much because it was boring for me. But, because y'all probably went to PE in high school. I did not have it in high school.
I didn't go. Last time,
it didn't exist.
We stopped in middle school. And what I do remember as well, I think I got more trouble in PE than any other class because of who was in my PE class and the lack of structure we had.
I love PE. PE, elementary school, PE, middle school was all good.
Okay.
To flex.
Well, we're back with this next episode, and we do have 3 more debate topics that these two are going to battle it out with. The judges are going to decide who
Let's
wins
do
at
it.
the end. So we'll start with the first question. It's CIF playoffs right now, and we do have a lot of failed basketball dreamers in here. So I'm wondering, do sports like basketball help or hurt young black men in the long run?
All right, let's take this very carefully and slowly because I want to make a point that probably will not be well received by lots of folks. Let me be fully disclosing that I love sports. I played sports in high school. You play sports in basketball. I mean, you play sports in high school. You play sport in high school. All my children play sports. I think sports have a lot of value for people who participate in them. We learn lots of things: teamwork, discipline, hard work, effort. But I'm going to take a stance that I think people won't like because I think that in many ways, high school sports do more harm to black boys than they do help. And let me explain why. They do more harm because you have, as you just set up, Typo, you have young black boys, 10, 11, 12, 13, who believe they're going to the NBA. 99.999% of them are not going to the NBA. Okay, if they don't want to go to the NBA, they think they're going to get a scholarship to college. Guess what? 98.888% are not even going to college on a scholarship. So overwhelmingly, most are not going to play sports at the college level. But they put an inordinate amount of time into sports practice, lifting, conditioning, coaching, and I would always contend that that time could be better spent doing something else. Sharpening your skills in video editing, knowing how to do coding, knowing how to construct a computer game. There's so many other areas that young black boys have opportunities to be successful and have more of a range of possibilities to be really, really, really good than to put all that time into sports.
So I'm going to ask you, this is 1982 in Compton. What are you looking forward to most about school?
Sports.
That's what you're looking forward to most.
Yes.
You may have gotten good grades, but you were there because you liked sports. Ricky, when you were going to school, what kept you most excited and wanting to keep going to school?
Joking. Being in class.
Okay, second to joking.
There was no second.
you
Just
go.
seeing your friends.
Did sports at all keep you tied to school?
I think that there's a difference with me though. I think that because like when I went to like Crenshaw in high school, I didn't realize that you could actually get a scholarship. I thought scholarships was like for specific people. I didn't know playing sports gets you the scholarship. I didn't know about college teams. I didn't know anything until like, honestly, in real life, not even joking, until like my senior year. I'm not even joking. Like I didn't think it was possible because where I was coming from, nobody ever talked about going to college or playing football or doing nothing in college. We see the NBA, but I didn't know how they got there.
Was sports in high school, but sports in school, was that something that you enjoyed about school though?
Yeah.
So, the big reason why I will always contend that sports, I won't say are vital at all for black boys in school, but I think why we need them is because we have so much evidence that suggests it's good for black boys in school. I think.
Which black boys?
So let's go through it, right? I think number one, you're talking about, right, for those of us who aspire to pros, professional rank, et cetera, et cetera. I think part of what Typo just broke down for us is understanding that for a lot of black boys, they may say this when someone asks what I want to do because I need to have an answer on that. But in reality, I don't know how many are actually aspiring towards those things. But me feeling like I have a connection to a sport, it gives me an identity in some ways because I can say I'm a basketball player, I'm a football player, I'm a baseball player. That sense of identity matters for kids. Social connectedness is vital. All the things that you just talked about are often done in isolation, right? Computer programming, coding, et cetera, those are done in isolation, whereas sports are time where you're able to interact with others. Physical activity, when we understand childhood obesity rates and things like that.
You just said we shouldn't have PE though.
Hold up. Because we're not forcing you to change there. You bring your own clothes to sports practice. That's different, right? So all of these are crucial parts of childhood that I think sports allows us to do. And as a former teacher who coached, I know for a lot of my boys, if there wasn't sports, a lot of them wouldn't have come to school at all. And secondly, a lot of them wouldn't have kept their GPAs to a certain level if it didn't involve eligibility.
But what does that say about us as a society when a large number of black boys define their primary identity as being in sports?
It's not, I don't think we have to look at it as primary identity. I think what we have to think of is that children need something positive as an identity marker.
School has so many other options. You could be on the debate club, the chess club.
Everybody's school don't have that.
Yeah, you can start your own.
So then I got to start my own club?
I'm just saying that I think sports are a pathway. What about the kid who likes to sing or rap or dance or act or perform or is an artist? All those are other options too that allow kids to have far more opportunities and pathways than sports does, but I don't think we give those as many opportunities to thrive as we do sports.
But I think what we also don't think about a lot of times is cost of entry for these different things. For me to play basketball, I need shoes.
Which are expensive.
I can get cheap shoes. Don't act like I can't. I need shoes and a ball. That's it. If I want to do any of those other things that you're talking about, I need more resources and finances.
If you go to a local high school today and you say you want to play on the basketball team, there is a fee you got to pay. That is for not just your shoes, but for your uniform, for your warm-ups, for your it's not cheap.
I didn't say we don't, but if a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, like chess clubs, dance competitions, music competitions, far exceed basketball in terms of cost of entry. They just do. Yeah. And also in terms of accessibility, right? All those clubs that if we're asking 10, 11-year-olds to start chess clubs when they never played chess, to start music clubs when they have no experience doing that, that's not realistic.
Here's my bottom line. Some young black boys spend as many as 10, 12, 14 hours a week in their sport. What if they spend 10, 12, 14 hours a week focusing on math, focusing on writing, focusing on science, focusing on subject matters that can help them to create the kind of world that they want to live in. That's what I'm saying. If they just took a fraction of that time, when you put 12, 14 hours into a sport, you don't have a whole lot of mental energy left to put into your academics. In the long run, I'm concerned about your academic outcome than your sports performance.
But I think you're conflating two arguments. Just because we take away sports doesn't mean that we're going to spend all that on academics. That's likely not going to happen. And I think there's several things at play that we're ignoring here. Number one, you grew up around old black folks just like I did. And one of the things they always say, An idle mind is a devil's playground. I want children to have organized, structured activities after school.
Sports is not the only thing.
But I'm just saying, I want that to happen. And for a lot of black boys, if their interests are tied to sports, we need to make sure we provide that. Secondly, play matters. Fun matters. All the stuff that you're talking about of academics and studying and all that kind of stuff, there's a time and a place for that. But play, being outside, interacting, particularly in a generation that is dead set on looking at screens all day, being inside, and lacking social interactions, I would actually argue that sports are more important now than ever before.
Look, sports in general are fine. It's the organized notion of sports where everybody's trying to make varsity as a freshman. Everybody wants to be able to play on a travel team when they're in 8th or 9th grade. I'm just saying, I think that the way that sports has gone now and the commodification of young black bodies, to me, is deeply problematic, where I think there's exploitation where they're taken advantage of in ways that basically feed pipe dreams to young black boys that do not come true. We can teach young black boys so many other skills than sports.
I mean, I think I'm a little bit.
Come on now.
Come
on, Typo. Come on, Typo.
I think that a lot of black kids play sports because our athletes are superheroes for us. I don't think they're playing because they expect to be that superhero, because a lot of us, like I said, when I grew up, there was no idea of college. I think there was a way to hype a child up to go to college first, and then the pros become secondary, but that's not the case. So, I mean, but both of you guys have very good points. I think the judges are gonna have a good time with that one. So we'll move on to the next one. Kind of controversial topic. So should there be different punishment for a black kid saying the N-word versus any other race kid saying the N-word?
So yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation and going into this topic, because you and I have been to a number of different schools, both within and beyond California, schools with a predominantly black population, schools with very few black students in attendance. What we consistently hear from educators, N-word is a problem.
That's right.
It's being used in a derogatory sense sometimes to put others down. It's being used in a quote unquote conversational way in some ways, to connection between people. My argument is that we need to be multifaceted in the ways in which we respond to and address the N-word at schools. I think if we can recognize that the root causes behind why different students are using the N-word, then therefore we need different ways of punishing and responding to them if we truly want to make sure that these patterns don't continue. If we have a black student who is using the N-word, who shares with us that, hey, this is what we say at home, this is what I hear in my community, I didn't know that this was such a problem at school, I believe that child needs more of a conversation. We need to have more of an understanding of your home culture and help you understand why you can't bring that to the school, versus the white student who said, well, I hear this language on the video games when I play it. That black kid in class made me mad, so I used it and called him that word. That deserves a different punishment. You're engaging in intentionally hateful behaviors, whereas this other situation is a byproduct of certain cultural norms that may not fit into school spaces.
So let me be clear. This is not a hard topic at all. And Typo, I'm sure you'll join me on this side as well.
He really wants to.
Let me be clear. There's no place, in my humble opinion, for the N-word to be used at school.
And we agree on that.
What you do at home is your business. What you do in the streets is your business. What you do in your private time is all up to you. But at school, whether you white, red, black, blue, green, yellow, pink, nobody uses the N-word. And let me tell you why. We cannot have a school where we say, okay, you can use it, you can't use it, you can use it on Monday and Tuesday, you can't use it on Thursday. No, we're gonna have a universal rule. You can't be in a place where you're gonna pick and choose what kids can do certain things when it comes to a particular word. It's just not acceptable. Then what we get into, and you know this, we've seen this, then black kids start saying, well, I gave him the N-word pass. So this white kid can use it because I gave him the pass, but that white kid can't use it because his pass expired. This Latino kid over here, he has an N-word pass on this week, but we'll reevaluate him next week. No. There's no use for anybody to use the word in the school, period, in the discussion.
You misunderstand the question. It's not whether or not it should be allowed. Should our punishments be different based off the offending
Yes,
student?
it's got to be consistent. Whatever happens to the black kid for using the N-word is what happens to the white kid. You can't use it. You cannot use it. You cannot use it.
The white child who is in class and gets mad at a black girl and calls her the N-word, it should not be treated the same way as the two black students in the hallway who are using the N-word with each other. We can't handle that the same.
But I think that is more the exception than the norm. More times than not, when non-black kids use the N-word, they use it as a term of endearment just like black kids do. More times than not.
No.
Because most black kids are not going to school with white kids.
But
most black kids go to school with Mexican and Asian kids. When they use it, it's not used in a derogatory manner.
No, so I strongly disagree, and I think this is where your age starts to show in some ways. Because I think it does. And Ricky, you know this like I do. So social media has allowed non-black children with a unique access to blackness and black engagement, like truly never before. They don't have to ever go near black people, but to see the same things that they're talking in discussion. For example, I grew up in Santa Clarita, he grew up in Crenshaw. Let's say I never go to Crenshaw, I have little to no idea as to what happens there. But now, I can see exactly what's happening in his world without ever coming near Crenshaw.
But connect that to the N-word.
So I'm about to connect it, right? So if I see certain ways of engagement and behaviors that I'm observing online, right? This regular N-word usage and things like that. And then I have access to black people. I can bring that to my non-black environment and use it in hateful, derogatory ways, in the ways I hear it online, and in casual conversational ways. We have kids that are now exposed. So your point about like most black kids attend this, that's the old world. That matters, but it's irrelevant in the sense that we have access like never before to all
But you're
the
not interacting with those students. Just because you see them online, you're not seeing them face to face.
But you can interact with them online.
No, I'm saying in person.
No, but I'm saying
that's the problem. You can say things online you would never say in person.
But I can take them to person. I can take them in person, particularly because when there's not a lot of black kids at my school, or even if there are, but I have a substantial number of others, we can use these words however we want to.
This is how white kids catch a beat down. Because you think you can sit and say things that you see online. You think, if I see the black kids at Crenshaw calling each other the N-word, I think I can go back to my school now and call those black kids the N-word. That's not going to work.
But this isn't hypothetical. That's actually happening.
That's what, like, I got a weird perspective on it because, like, all right, so like what you were saying, I grew up and the word was normal. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. Like,
anybody using it?
Until I got to about junior high is when I kind of realized, like, oh, nobody else supposed to say it because the Hispanic dudes wouldn't say it. There was no, oh, this person get a pass. Now, that started to me in the suburbs, kind of. But where I'm from, like, there was never a pass. Like, when I was at Crenshaw, there was never a pass for nobody to say it other than the black dudes. But then when I came here to, Valencia, and then you have, like, maybe a light-skinned dude that look a little, but you not really that. So for me, what I witnessed and I learned was you have a lot of black kids that I believe see those black people that use the N-word. Like say the kids from the suburbs, they see the ghetto black kids using the N-word, and they want to associate themselves with these people that they cannot connect with, but the word seems to be the fastest way they could do it.
That's right.
So I don't think that
and it's not authentic.
So I think, like Will said, if you have a kid that grows up in that environment, and the word is used at home, it's kind of hard to be mad at that kid.
But okay,
if y'all said it versus, like if you said it versus if I said it, like you weren't raised.
You don't use it at home.
But
so you come to school.
But okay, we got to complexify this conversation, right? Because what we can also understand is that if we're talking about usage at home, right? For some children who are growing up even in suburbs like this, if your parents were not raised in this environment, someone like you, Ricky, who is now raising these kids in the suburbs who uses that word, then his children can say, oh, this was normal in my environment. It didn't matter if I think us talking about an authentic usage of the N-word is a really dangerous conversation to get into.
That's why you outlaw.
Were your children hear it in the household?
No.
Your children won't hear the N-word at all in your household.
If they hear it, it's not for them.
See, so that's it right there.
We can't. They're not barred from using the word.
But we can't then say that, oh, if you're in the inner cities, the N-word is okay, but in other spaces it's inauthentic to use the N-word. What I'm saying in school, period, is if we're in the business of teaching, and if we can agree, right? Because I think what we do agree is that the N-word is a problem.
Right.
My thing is we need to make sure we're providing education and punishments that are commensurate with the thing that was committed.
Let's put, we push back on the term punishment. Even punishment is problematic. But I think you're right. We agree that the N-word is a problem.
But
And
some
so
of this
that's
does
why-
need punishment. White children using the N-word in offensive ways towards black children, we need punishment.
But sometimes black students use words towards other students that are problematic, but they're not punished. So that's what I'm
They
saying.
are, though. That's the problem.
That's what I'm saying. That's why there's got to be consistency. That the white kid who uses it needs to be educated on why that's a problem and why you should not use it. The black kid who uses it with another black kid, he or she or they need to also be told why this is a problem and why they shouldn't be using it. I'm saying consistent conversation before you go to punishment.
But here's why yours doesn't work. Let's say we've come up with a consistent punishment. I'm just throwing this out there, right? A response to it. Let's say our decision is that you have an automatic lunch detention for using the N-word. Who is going to be disproportionately targeted?
Us. That's why we need to learn.
That's
why we need to learn not to use it.
But this is why I'm saying
But wait,
differential
that's hard
ways of
to say
responding.
that we should not be able to use it, right?
Why do we need it in school?
Because
It's
like
no
that's
doubt.
so this is why I'm like, there's such a way to control it, but people just want to choose. Like that word is what black people or black kids use because it's just like, I don't know when I use it, I just use it, right? But let's say compare it, right? Why, if you use, there's so many words that have to do with somebody being gay that are off limits. All of a sudden, they're completely off limits to everyone that's not a part of the group. And that's it. We're asking for the same, like, this is a word that, like, I'm saying, there's no way you're going to punish everybody at lunch in LA
1,000%.
down that way because everybody won't be eating. So people know not to use the word, right?
Right.
So you know which group should not use the word. But everybody wants to use the word because of how popular it is.
Right.
But if you use any of those words that you're not supposed to in them other communities, now you got a school, you cancel,
we should be bothered by the fact that the word that is most derogative towards us is such a popular word. Nobody else has a word that is downplaying them, that dehumanizes them, that makes them feel less than. That's the word we're all going to make popular. Everybody wants to use it. And
But
if I
that's
can't
your fault.
No,
it is.
The word was used before us.
But your generation made it popular like no other.
It was used before us.
That's
though.
fine, but you all popularized it. You got to take that.
It was used before us. But I'm saying at the end of the day, though, part of what I'm saying is this. We had to be consistent. To be intellectually honest, you got to have consistency across the board. You cannot use it. If you use it and we give you a warning once, if we talk to you a second time, twice, then at third time, we got to be consistent with everybody. Black, white, yellow, red, green. I don't care. You got to. The way you get rid of it is you got to be consistent.
No, I think that we have there are ways in which the N-word is used for overt racialized harm that we can still differentiate from different usages. So I think, I think
We
can
can't
be clear.
give teachers that ability to
So
try
hold on.
to
So,
tease
but it's
tease
not even
out.
that.
They can't.
I was literally talking to a teacher the other day who said that in her classroom she found notes of two white students passing notes back and forth that said, "Let's kill all the N-words." That is no overt usage of racialized harm.
That's not how it's used in most settings.
Hold up. But this is my point. If we do have, this is why we can't say it's the same all across the board because these offenses are not the same all across the board. We need to respond in ways that match the offense that was committed. So if the non-black student is using it in a way that, but follow me in this, if the non-black student is using the N-word with another non-black student, even casually, right? I believe there's a conversation that needs to be had with that student that is not the same as the conversation that happens between two black students using the N-word. I don't think that conversation is the same.
You put a lot of faith in school personnel to have that level of intellect and that level of nuance and that level of complexity to be able to disentangle all those different ways. That in the ideal world, sure. These are folks who don't like to talk about race, who are afraid of race, and who don't have the skill set to talk about race. Now you're gonna give them responsibility to say, okay, when it's white kids using towards black kids, that's one way. When it's black kids towards black kids, it's one way. When it's black kids toward brown kids, that's way over their head. That is not going to work at all.
So you just rolled out a 3-strike scenario. One time it's a warning, second time conversation, third time you're out of here.
No, I said that. I didn't say that. I didn't say
So
no.
what's the third time? What's the third time?
No. I said whatever your process is. The first time I'm talking to you, second time you have to you got lunch detention. Third time we're calling your parents.
Okay. So then we're just gonna be calling all black parents all day, every day.
And everybody acts like,
But you're not gonna take us anywhere.
Because guess what? A lot of the parents would be surprised and shocked, especially in suburban communities, that their kids are using the N-word at school. They would be shocked.
I think
They
your
would be
dad
shocked.
and
I
mom
strongly
would be
disagree.
surprised if they say, "Hey, Jalil's in here."
No, in our household, but I'm saying this, but here's also the thing. We didn't play video games in our house when we were talking crazy. You know as loud as some of these kids talk, you can't tell them people in their households can't hear what they're saying on games,
I'm
what
just
they're
saying.
putting on social media and things like
It's
that.
starting a conversation between parents and kids and schools and teachers and principals, that's long overdue. Because we're keeping this under wraps as if it's okay, and people don't want to police it and monitor it and deal with it. Let's bring it all on the table and talk about it, because half the kids who use it, the parents don't know that they're using it. Kids who use it across the board need to understand why it's harmful, it's hateful. That's the last word that some black people heard before they took their final breath because they were being lynched. Is that the word we want to be able to kind of protect and educate and say it's okay if this group uses it, but it's okay if
I've never played that game. You made that the
but
argument.
that's what school personnel will do.
But this is my thing. I think the bar that you're setting is just so low in terms of disruption. And what's going to happen with that bar is all we're going to end up doing is punishing black kids. That's all that's going to happen with that low bar. So even if you think that what I'm saying is too lofty, at least what I'm offering is at least saying that we're going to provide tangible ways of engaging in meaningful conversation with different groups around the world because they have a different relationship to it. What I told you, if we think about Los Angeles, right? We have a substantial number of students who do not have generations of family history in the United States. Their relationship to the N-word is very different from white kids who have been here for years, from black kids who have been here for years. Yeah. It's just a fundamental difference.
I don't trust people in schools to deal with this matter like that.
Yeah, and me either. I'm not the people in school. Yeah. Not the people in school. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to our third topic and let the judges go ahead and decide who won that round. With COVID, we saw a lot of kids doing schooling at home because there was no other option. So now that there is an option, should kids still be able to do schooling at home, or should we go back to everybody being at the schools and figuring it out that way?
So this is an important topic. I think we learned, sadly, COVID was a problem on a lot of levels, but we learned some things. And one of the things I think we learned was that we can do school differently. And a lot of kids, as you said, Typo, started doing school at home. And some kids did better, not a lot, but a lot of kids did better at home than they did at school because they could work independently. They didn't have to deal with other kids and being bullied and anxiety. And so I think we learned that we have a new format that kids can learn in. And I think that needs to be something that's on the table and be an option for every kid who might be able to do better in that format compared to other formats.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think, look at workplaces now, pre and post COVID, right? We have now seen that for a lot of the work that we do, it doesn't require us all coming and being physically in the same space every day. It provides a host of benefits for employees. You have more flexibility to your schedule, a little bit more time for self-care, whatever that may be. What I think about, though, is while I am a fan of the option, I also hope that we provide the necessary social supports for that to still work. While I agree that anytime traditional schooling has kind of forced social interactions where kids are kind of inundated with seeing people in class, outside of class. What I think about is how do we develop these kind of remote communities where there's still time for students to still have normative social engagement in person. So whether that be collective field trips that we can still offer, recess, lunch periods, whatever that may be, I just hope that what we can do is provide a remote option that still has communal features, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's the part that we got to be concerned about, because there are some kids who, if they could do online schooling, they would sit at a screen and be on a screen all day, every day, and never interact with anybody, let alone peers, not even their parents and siblings. So I think the social part matters, but I do think we have to learn that we have neurodivergent learners, kids who learn differently, whose brains are just wired in different ways, and the face-to-face time with the screen works for them. And we can't take that away from them, especially if schools don't provide something different. So I think it's up to teachers and schools to be innovative and creative. Stop doing schools like it's 1850. It's 2025. Technology is a big part of how we all live our lives. Why not have it in schools?
And I think, go ahead.
No, I think I'm agreeing with both of you guys. I'm not really, against school in any way. With that, I have no idea what to say about this one.
I think you made a great point in terms of neurodivergent learners and the difficulties they may encounter in school. But I also just think about for the students who have encountered different types of trauma in their childhood, I think we sometimes underestimate just how overwhelming school is. You got hundreds of kids. If some schools, thousands of kids that you're just walking by constantly, bumping into, interacting with. Your classroom got 30 people in it. And I think for some children, that is just overwhelming. There are too many people at every turn that I have. And I think particularly if you have certain adverse childhood experiences, that can be triggering in a lot of ways. And that can then lead to behaviors that teachers complain about, like aggression, children who shut down, whatever that may be, and we don't recognize the ways in which just we have too many people here plays into that. So
that's important. I think even if you didn't have adverse child experiences. I mean, there are just some young people
Fair.
who are just shy.
Yeah.
Who don't like being around a lot of people. I mean, I think we all have the benefit of being more popular kids or more outward going personalities. That's easy for us. But for the introverted kids, school can be, like you said, overwhelming.
Yeah.
For the kid who doesn't have very many friends, school can be like not a good place to go to. And I think you want to provide spaces that says I don't have to be worried about my social dynamics in order to be at school. I can sit and do school in my own time. And I also say this in terms of my own time. The other thing we have to do, why should kids have to be in school 7 to 8 hours if I can sit on my computer and get school done in 3 hours?
Because they need to do something other than being on the computer.
Yeah, I'm not saying
you just sit home.
But you weren't on my side in the sports conversation. you gonna come back around to my side.
Because you literally leaving it up to, like, some kids would literally, if they had an option, like, I know if I didn't like sports and I had an option to do my work on the computer, use ChatGPT, get it done, I could be on Fortnite all day.
I want everybody at home to notice the way you came back to my side on the sports conversation. Because he came right back. But I do agree. But I think there's a balance to both sides of this, because I do think for years we've said the kid who's shy and awkward, we need to kind of force him to go and interact in the real world.
That's not good.
And I think
the school needs to fix that. They need to help kids better.
So, but that's the thing. But to that point, because we haven't done that yet, I think it's unfair for us to continue to push kids into that. When we find better ways to allow, social interaction for the children who may have some social stunted development, I think that's better. But without that alternative, offering that option,
I don't think it's
crucial.
stunted development. It's just different development.
Different developments, fine.
Yeah.
I can accept that as well.
Yeah.
How would you have responded if one of your children wanted that option when they were in K-12 school?
Yeah, I think this was pre-COVID, so it was foreign to us. The idea of being able to sit at home and do school was something that was just foreign. Probably we're like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But once we had COVID and everybody had to do it, we were exposed to something. We didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
Now we see it as a viable option. I think more parents should at least explore it. But I think Typo makes a good point. Some kids will feel like, okay, if I can basically be online for 2 hours, be done at 10 o'clock in the morning, and now I got the rest of my day to be on. That's not a good look either. So we need structured time doing something, and I don't know what that looks like. And again, we have to think outside the box in terms of what that can possibly
You don't think that is the time spent in the classroom, like at school, right? Like you got to wake up real early. I think that's like that used to be. I couldn't do that. That kind of messed up my whole day. I ain't ready to operate till after breakfast.
But they say that's true.
Nutrition or
Your
whatever.
brain operates best with 10 a.m. or something like that. Is really we should start schooling. So I think this is just another byproduct. Even going to our previous conversation about ChatGPT, we've just been so archaic and formulaic in the way that we've done schooling, and I think we have to be open to these other ways of doing it.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up for right now and let the judges deliberate on these 3 topics. And we'll move right into what we like to call my typo takes. My first take is, I was actually curious. Like, all right, let's say, for example, a rich guy like Elon Musk, right? I was thinking about this one day. So I'm like, say Elon gave every American $1 million, right? Every single one. I have this idea in my head that, like, more than half of the population would not exist anymore.
Why?
Oh, what would happen?
You would have people trying to, what do they call it on right now on the internet? Unalive.
Oh,
each other
unalive.
for the money. There are people that are just, I mean, there's just so many reasons I think that it would be such a bad idea to give every American $1 million because everybody would be broke again except for the companies. So, but what do you guys think? If you were to give every American $1 million.
So I'm going to push back on what you said. I think for folks with need, if you suddenly had $1 million, the idea would be if all my needs are taken care of, I don't need to do anything extreme at this point. I can kind of instead construct a more stable life. And there's a lot of people with that $1 million wouldn't really change anything for them. Like, they still living their life the way they do.
I would be all for that because I think you would eliminate poverty. I think you're always going to have a percentage of people who will waste the money, but I think that'd be a small percentage. I think most people use it to
pay off debt.
Yeah, to get their basic needs met, a home, transportation, get my kids decent schooling, get them braces, get them decent. I think it would be a good thing.
So maybe it would be better if let's say, for example, if he gave the money, but you could only use it for those
certain
kind of things.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like you have a set of-
conditions.
It's like you go. Only use it for that.
Yeah.
But you made me think about the news story in Stockton a few years ago where they had given some families guaranteed extra income every month.
$1,000 a month.
$1,000 a
No
month,
strings attached.
extra income just to see how they would use it. And what they found is that overwhelmingly is that people use it for those basic needs that we talked about. They
Diapers.
They weren't spending it
Formula.
on cars and extravagant vacations and things like that. They were instead spending on very tangible needs, clothes, shelter, food, et cetera, et cetera. So
Inner city communities, I think
Stockton.
Gucci going up.
this is Stockton. This
Gucci
is
going
Stockton,
up.
California. No, no, no.
Gucci, Chargers,
Stockton is
them Hellcats,
Stockton.
they going up.
I don't know if Stockton is considered urban because of the neighborhood that you're in, but you're dealing with that same demographic, which I think is why it matters that folks didn't spend it on that kind of stuff. They actually spent it on basic needs. So while some people will, most people will spend it in the ways they should, I believe.
Okay, and so I have another one. So my second take.
Take on.
What do you think about students being able to wear do-rags and bonnets at school?
Oh, boy.
I'm pro. As you can see, I'm very pro the option.
Get them out of here.
no,
All of it.
see, here you
I don't
go,
want to
here
see
you go.
do-rags. I don't want to see
If I have a
bonnets.
bad hair day, why can't I cover it up?
Figure it out.
I did. I did. My do-rag was the way I figured it out. My do-rag, my bonnet in no way impacts you teaching up there and my learning.
It emphasizes the N-word. So let's just say, for example, because I don't know any other race that wear do-rags and bonnets, right? So if white kids start wearing do-rags and bonnets, does anything get weird?
First of all, that's happening already.
Yes, that's why that's why we don't need it. That's why we don't need it. Once you
we're-
open up that door, everybody's coming through.
I'm not for that at all.
Yeah.
I'm not for that at all.
Yes.
Joe Burrow walk in with a do-rag.
Allow black children to wear their do-rags and bonnets. They deserve it.
No,
They deserve it.
No.
Let them wear their bonnets.
No. Bring your hair as beautiful as it is, the way it is every day.
Exactly. When he went to school, they wore it out.
Yeah, you wore it out.
They had no other option. You can't put a Jerry curl under a do-rag.
If your curl was dry, you can come with your plastic shower cap on. You just came with a dry curl.
Like I said, ain't nothing wrong with my do-rag stopping my learning.
Okay. Well, you know what? Hopefully we could do something about the do-rags and the bonnets. I mean, I don't like them.
So you anti?
Yeah, I'm anti. I
So
don't
come
like
on,
them in
man.
school.
Yeah.
First of all, nah. Okay, so the judges have given me the rounds scorecards, and unfortunately, you did not win. So today's winner is the Tyrone.
I can feel the bias today.
Dr. Tyrone.
Hey.
I gladly accept this win. I want to say I appreciate the way my competition stepped up. But this is what this is all about. It's about learning. It's about growing. It's about trying to be better every day. So hopefully he's watching my takes, my insights, my analysis, and how I land my plane and I make compelling points. I look forward to future discussions on these important and compelling topics around sports, education, and current events. Thank you, gentlemen.